What is going on, everyone? This is your host with the most, coming at you from coast to coast, East Coast, West Coast, every kind of coast, and coming at you guys with another episode of the Linc'd podcast. Reminder, the link is pinned at the very top here, so anybody that wants to come on to the show and be a part of the show and talk about anything with the Eagles that we're doing for this week with our topics for this week, feel free to check out the link right there. And without further ado, let's get my main man, my co-host with the most, Linc'd End Zone, coming into the building for the touchdown, for the score, dropping a dime. What's up, Andrew? What's up, my good man?
Yeah. Episode 10.
For you, but it's all good.
Right. Episode 10. We are at our highest score yet. We got
double digits. I
can't imagine how many episodes we're going to get into at the start of the season, man. Training camp's around the corner. We're going to be loaded with work to do. We're about to get into the juicy
content, man. It's been a testament to what our consistency and our hard work with this podcast, being able to keep going, even though it's been a slow time. But I got to say, there is some still good stuff and some good topics to discuss, even though we are still waiting for training camp and everything to take place. So, want to start with our player of the week, as we do every single week. This week, it's going to be Mr. Brian Westbrook. Brian Westbrook is definitely a fan favorite. Brian Westbrook. One of my favorite memories of Brian Westbrook was his punt return against the Giants. Everyone talks about Deshaun Jackson, but don't forget in 2003 he had the game-winning punt return as well against the New York Giants. He was a killer. He was catching the ball out of the backfield very, very well. He was first-team All-Pro in 2007. He had 1,300 rushing yards that season, and then he had 700 receiving yards, so over 2,000 yards from scrimmage in 2003. So Westbrook was always slept on. He was always underrated. He didn't get like the recognition of the elite running backs. I'm not saying that he was, as good as someone like LaDainian Tomlinson, for example. He wasn't, but he was still a solid player. He's still a really good player and a fan favorite. I do not, however, think he was – I thought Shady McCoy was better. Shady McCoy had more All-Pros. He had more seasons rushing over 1,000 yards. But Westbrook was still a great player. He was still fun to watch. He was exciting. And I definitely understand why he's a fan favorite. But Westbrook, always going to have some good memories of him wearing the Eagles green.
Right. I think it's really easy. It's really easy to put him – and Shady as your staples. Yeah, they're your staples of the franchise. They're your foundations. They are they are the tier that you start with when it comes to those two for the Eagles and yeah, I mean I don't know if it was an underratedness or a means of being underappreciated at times, but how I visioned Brian Westbrook was the fact that he was a do-it-all type of back, and you mentioned you go back to 2007 and what he was able to do that year as a first-team All-Pro, and aside from
pretty impressive.
Aside from running the football. I mean,
I agree with
the
that.
dude had 90. He had 90 receptions that year, 90 as a running back to be targeted. He had almost 120 targets as a running back.
How good he was!
So between rushing the football and the asset he was in the pass game, and how much of a reliability he became for Donovan McNabb, it was
that season.
Unbelievable. I mean that same year, if I remember correctly, against one of the games that comes to mind for me is that game against Detroit, the Lions back in 2007, where he had 100 receiving and rushing yards in the same game while scoring three touchdowns, 3 total touchdowns between receiving and rushing the football, and that's not the first time he's done it. He's had games like that where he's done it multiple times. I mean, whether it's whether it's one of only 25 players to do this or one of 5 players to do that at that point in time. And you talk about Randall Cunningham and the name that he made for himself as the ultimate weapon for the Eagles. I mean, it's not a far stretch to say that B. West at times was the ultimate running back for this franchise when he played for the Eagles. It was just, I mean, it was beautiful to watch.
And his whole career with the Eagles, 8 seasons with the team, he almost had 10,000 yards from scrimmage, just under 10,000 yards from scrimmage. So he was definitely doing a lot, and it wasn't just, as you said, he was catching the ball out of the backfield at a high level, but as I said, the game-winning punt return against the Giants 2007. He was also doing on special teams. So he could return, he could catch the ball, he could run the ball. So I don't even know if we were going to have another player that can do all three. Shady McCoy was great, but he wasn't, returning punts and doing stuff like that. He was catching the ball, he was running the ball, but he wasn't doing it like on special teams. That's why we went out and got Sproles. We had Shady and Sproles for the one season, but
they did.
We won't get into why that got broken up, but
I mean, I will say they did experiment. They did experiment with B. West in his second year on the team in terms of kickoff and punt returns. I think he had a total of 43 combined between punts and kickoffs, and
he was doing it all.
He returned quite a good amount of touchdowns. I think he had it was 2003. I think he had 4. More so amongst punt returns for touchdowns. So I think he averaged 15 yards in punts and 21 yards in kickoffs. So I mean, between both phases from offense and special teams, there wasn't I don't think there was a single spot where he wasn't useful. And you talk about value as a player, as a running back. That's almost at the top. You can't get any better.
And that's where I also got to give credit for Andy Reid, because if you look at Andy Reid's track record, this is what I always say about Andy Reid, especially with quarterbacks. He's done it with multiple quarterbacks, but he also has a very good eye for scouting running back talent. Obviously, Shady McCoy, we mentioned him. Deuce Staley. You had Brian Westbrook. You had Kareem Hunt in Kansas City. And all those guys were pretty good. All those guys at least got over the 1,000-yard mark at least once, at least a few times. So I think Westbrook's a stud, bro. And I think Andy Reid's got such an eye for offensive talent that it's insane what he's been able to do. But yeah, those were some good times. It just didn't result in any rings or anything, unfortunately.
No, it's a shame the way he fell off, and he got robbed of a year because of injury in 2005. But the way he was able to bounce back in 2006 and 2007, it's just it's unbelievable for one. And and we can't necessarily talk like he was falling off primarily because of age either, because I think when he started to run out of gas in the tank, he was only 28 years old, but then he moved on, I think went to San Francisco, and that was his last dance. But it's not like he was robbed of anything because of age. And over time, when you're used in the way that he was over that stretch of time, I mean, just an extra receiver on the field playing running back, and how much trust Donovan McNabb had in him, you can't put it in any better of a light. So,
before we get back, or before we move on from this segment, I'm just going to wrap it up here. In terms of Brian Westbrook, I mentioned how great I think Shady McCoy was, and I think Shady was better. But I got to say, the biggest thing that I need to give credit for Westbrook was, I think he played a crucial role with Shady McCoy being a mentor for him when Shady was coming in as a rookie running back. So I think that's
very influential.
I think that's something that doesn't get brought up a lot. A lot of people is talking about him as a player, but as a leader.
Yep.
I think he was really very much helpful for Shady McCoy, guys. But when we get back, guys, we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, the outlook in the NFC East. Who is the biggest threat for the Philadelphia Eagles? We will talk about that when we get back.
I'm running like my hands on fire, and I don't intend to stop even when my legs grow tired. And I got a message, Colorado straight from Texas, captured most of me, just let me be.
Make sure you guys check out the links in the description. Shop all the best Yeti products. They got some really good stuff, cups, coolers, all kinds of stuff that you guys need for the time of year, going camping, going to the beach, whatever you're doing this summer. Go check out Yeti products. But anyway, guys, the NFC East is here, or the NFC East is going to be interesting this year, I think, with the moves that the Eagles made. A lot of people seem to think that the Eagles closed the gap. Did they close the gap on the Cowboys? Because the Cowboys, they lost their best receiver, Amari Cooper. They traded him for basically pennies. They lost their best edge rusher. They lost Randy Gregory. So, and the guys that they replaced him with, they lost Lyle Collins, going over to the Bengals. Joe Burrow. That was a good pickup for the Bengals, by the way. Mm-hmm. They replaced them with rookies and guys that are just not very proven. So, what can you realistically expect with the Cowboys? I'm not saying the Cowboys are not going to still be a good team. I think that Cowboys will still be a playoff team. I think that the NFC East will send both the Eagles and the Cowboys to the playoffs. I think that'll happen. What happens in the playoffs, I don't know yet. But I see us winning the division. But it's clear that the Cowboys are the best team. They're the only team that has a good quarterback. And I don't think Dak is the best quarterback by any means, but much better than Daniel Jones, better than Carson Wentz. And I just think that the Cowboys have the better roster of those teams. Washington always seems to, look decent on paper, especially defensively. Their defense last season was getting a lot of hype. Chase Young got hurt. They just weren't that defense that people expected them to be. I don't think they're going to be that this season. Terry McLaurin's a very good player, though. I think that he could cause some problems for us. But other than that, am I really that nervous about anyone in the NFC East? No. Which is why I say if we beat Dallas, that's all that matters. Because we beat Dallas, if we win the other games in our schedule that we're supposed to win, then we're going to win the NFC East, and I don't think it's going to be much of a problem. But if I had to say who's the biggest threat, the biggest team standing our way, it's definitely the Dallas Cowboys. No question about it.
Yeah, of course. Don't forget about the link at the top of the chat, everybody. Love to hear your thoughts as well.
Sure
you are welcome to it.
Come in.
Episode 10 is special just for that particular reason, other than us finishing 10 episodes already. But yeah, I mean, we have been stuck. In terms of the NFC East, we have been stuck for how many years now, and in making the Dallas Cowboys that contender, that team that we always had to measure to in some sort of validity.
In the Cowboys,
right? Yeah, but I mean, there's a big element that's going to come into play this year in which in which these teams are going to have to determine, are they going to win or lose because of their quarterback? Are they going to win because of the quarterback, or are they going to lose or so on and so forth in spite of said quarterback? To where, all right, if we look at the Cowboys in terms of Dak Prescott, he's he's probably one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the division. Yeah, Jalen Hurts still has he's still in a position to, prove to us what he's got. And certainly the Eagles have made every possible move they could to put him in the best position. But I think in terms of Dallas, the best things that they have going for them right now is that, well, Dan Quinn is still their defensive coordinator. That's another year that they can build behind him, and outside of that debacle of a year that they had in certain games in 2020. We remember the Falcons game, and even last year. Being down 30-0 against the Denver Broncos, I think, going into the fourth quarter or so at some point. But despite losing a lot of depth pieces and some core positional players, they still have talent to show sustainability from a perspective of competition in terms of the NFC East. So, that's still yet to be determined through Washington and the New York Football Giants with the moves they have made from quarterback to head coaches to defensive coordinators. As we know, Carson Wentz also who is now the starting quarterback for Washington, and he still has some weapons over. He has some decent weapons over there. Let's not get it twisted. McLaurin inked himself into Washington. They have I think they have that. What is it? The second or third year receiver out of North Carolina. I think he's a second year receiver, but Dynami Brown is supposed to be a good piece. I'm sure they have plenty of promise in him. Jahan Dotson they picked up in this year's draft, I believe. So you gotta, they have a lot going for them offensively. Antonio Gibson is still there. So again, Wentz is in another no excuses kind of situation. Logan Thomas is going to be coming back from that ACL tear. I think it was an ACL tear, much like our own Tyree Jackson went through. And, a lot of us we're trying to make the comparison and creating a quarterback into a tight end. And, well, they're going to get Logan Thomas back. So Wentz has some weapons across the board. Now,
basically, you're saying there's no excuses for Wentz.
Absolutely not. No, there isn't. I mean, he's got a reputable head coach in Ron Rivera. Defensively, they're still set so long as key players come back from injury, and they get Chase Young back. The secondary is still in a good position. They still have some quality linebackers. So I mean, across the board, Carson's still in a good position. I don't think he downgraded as much as people want to say going from the Colts to Washington. Yeah, they don't have a Darius Leonard or nothing. They don't have a Jonathan Taylor. And there's, you can keep naming off the board of players they might or might not have. But it's not as much of a downgrade as players.
Wentz has no help. He has no weapons because
Logan
Thomas, Terry McLaurin, they got good players. So if Wentz is coming in and he's folding like he has in the past, then I really don't want to hear anything. I don't want anyone saying, "Oh, well, it's Washington. What do you expect from Washington?" Well, Wentz is supposed to be an upgrade for their quarterback. Yet, if he goes there and he has the same issues that he's had, then that's an issue. He had problems in Philly. He had people saying that, he wasn't a good leader. And a lot of people were up in the air about that, including some of us. Then he goes to Colts. He's having the same issues with the Colts. So if he goes to a third team and has the same issues, then I really don't know what you want me to say. Because the off-the-field problems seem to follow him. And he doesn't really seem to be the type of guy that wants to take that accountability. So until he does, I'm not really particularly scared to play against Carson Wentz. I really am. I'm really not. And our scouting team knows all his tendencies all too well. they have years of film on Carson. So I'm really not scared of them. But if he doesn't fix his own, I said the same thing last year because all I kept hearing was Frank Reich. Frank Reich is going to make Carson Wentz MVP Carson Wentz. That's what people kept saying. And I was saying to them, look, Frank Reich does not have a little magic wand. Hey, I'm Frank Reich, and you're watching Disney Channel. He's not doing that. He doesn't have a magical wand that's going to make Carson Wentz fix the problems that he had. Carson Wentz has to fix the problems that he had. So I'm going to say it once again this season. If Carson Wentz does not fix the problems that he's had over the last couple of years, it's going to be the same result. Washington is going to be a non-playoff team, and they're not going to win anything.
Right, and, Carson did have a good year. Sorry about that. He did have a good year last year, and I put that in quotations because, some people want to paint it as that, he was a product of Jonathan Taylor, and, but his year was... his year was good, but it was too quiet to make noise. And I think that's the best way I can describe it. And, and you go to the end of the season and he couldn't beat the Jaguars. I mean,
the best way I can describe it, exactly. And that's what I was going to say. The best way I can describe it is people are going to look at Wentz's stats and say, oh, he had a good season. 27 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He had a good season. But this is why stats don't tell the story. Because if
break it down. Yep.
If you're watching games, you would see that the play calling was set up to protect Wentz from having to do too much. And then once it got to the point where they were taking away Jonathan Taylor and Wentz was being forced to have to beat him, that's when you start having major issues against the Raiders and the Jaguars back-to-back. And Jags had the first pick in the draft. If you can't beat the Jags, then I don't know what to say. I don't know why you're paying him a lot of money. And that's what the Colts said. That's why they got rid of him.
Same book, different chapter. I think that's the best way you can put it with Carson Wentz. Same player,
he's got to be
book.
A man.
Yep.
Like, there's no more. He's 6-7 years in the league now. 7 years in the league now, I think. It's time for you to actually do something. It's time for you to actually man up and say, hey, you know what? In the past, I was doing this crap. But I'm not going to do it anymore because this could be my last chance. Because if he has another, end of a season or a collapse like he did, how many teams are going to look at Carson Wentz and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take another chance for this guy to be, start. If he continues to do this, then this contract is going to be the last big contract that he gets. And then once he plays it out, he's either going to get released or he's going to end up being journeyman backup. He's going to be maybe Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford was still making money and going to teams, but he wasn't good. So it's the same. I think Wentz is in danger of becoming the new Sam Bradford if he doesn't take his accountability. That's just my opinion, though.
Embarrassingly, I think
he's talent, but he's got weak mentality that equals an average QB. Good way to put it, Chris. Good way to put it.
Embarrassingly, I think that Carson and Daniel Jones are in the same kind of bubble going into this year. And, the Giants did not pick up the, fifth-year option on Daniel Jones, so he is going to be set to become a free agent unless he has something to say about it with his play. But the reason I put him and Wentz in the same bubble is because they're both going to be in a situation to where is the team going to win because of you or in spite of you? Like, are you going to be that leader, that guy that they're going to want to go into battle with, that they have 100% of a committed trust in you to lead this team to victory? And for obvious different reasons now, intangibly in the case of Carson, that's not the case. And I'm not sure about Daniel Jones because I try to care about the Giants, but there's I try to care, but it's hard to muster it up, and I don't at the same time because they just never seem to be a threat whatsoever, despite us losing to them last year. But it is what it is.
They don't seem to be a threat, and they're not going to be a threat this year either. Even though you have people in Sideline Sports like JB and Jake and the other kid that's the intern, I forget his name, but talking about this mess in the Twitter group, I know it's classified information, but you guys are talking pretty big stuff for a team that hasn't been able to win anything. So, Giants are going to be in the basement. They're going to be fourth. I think it's going to be between them and Washington, and then it's going to be Dallas and the Eagles at the top. And I think both of us will go to the playoffs, and the other teams will be trying to get a decent draft pick. Giants will probably be a top 10 pick, but the Washington, they'll probably be, I don't know, they'll probably finish with 7-10, 8-9 at the most.
There's maybe three things that spark a little bit of intrigue to me when it comes to the Giants. Well, number one, I want to see what Brian Dable can do for this team going forward in the wake of Joe Judge, to see what kind of difference he makes as the leader of men with the players that he has on this squad for one thing. The second thing I'm intrigued about is Don Martindale, Wink Martindale, coming over from the Ravens and what he can do to try and revitalize and innovate that defense over there. And number three, and I know that there was a lot of talk about it, but they got Kayvon Thibodeau now, so I want to see how I want to see what kind of positions they put him in and how much of a threat that he's going to be. Because
if we didn't have a great line, I would be more concerned, but
right
about it.
But I only say in regards to they feel that they can talk him up as big as, like, they're talking him up as big as Chase Young. So I want to see what he's got.
I mean, he could be Chase Young, but he could be Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney was the first pick in the draft, and still in his career, Jadeveon Clowney does not have double-digit sacks in a season. So It's a little bit of hype there. So I got to go to the next topic now. So that was our little bit of our breakdown of NFC East, even though it was majority of me saying that Carson Wentz isn't going to do nothing. But that's beside the point. The next subject that we're going to be talking about is something I really didn't want to talk about on the show. It's something that I did not address in any videos or anything. And I'm going to still not address it. I'm just going to play this short little video. And this is going to be showing my thoughts and how I really feel about the whole situation, with the report from Derek Gunn saying that Jalen Hurts had like a bad practice at OTAs and he got sacked, even though there's no pass rushers in OTAs. Weird. But I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this for you guys.
If a coach say I missed practice and y'all hear it, then that's that. I mean, I might have missed one practice this year, but if somebody say he doesn't come to practice, it can be one practice out of all the practices this year. That's enough. If I can't practice, I can't practice, man. I'm hurt. I mean, simple as that. It ain't about that. I mean, it's not about that at all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but it's easy to talk about. It's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example.
Okay. We ain't talking about the game. We talking about freaking OTAs? Are you serious with this? I will never hype up OTAs. I think OTAs is a good thing. I think it's good that the teams have them, but people were saying Jalen Hurts was lighting up for crazy stats in the OTAs. And I was like, oh, good for him. But I'm not making a big deal about it. And I'm not making a big deal if he's saying that all of a sudden. It's also weird, the timing of it. How are you going to say the whole time that he was looking good in the OTA practices and then all of a sudden he was trash? And then everyone in the team, they said everyone in the team is worried that he's not going to be good. That's what they were saying because of OTA practice. And they said he threw like 3 interceptions and he took like 5 sacks. It's 7-on-7. How are you taking a sack if it's 7-on-7 and there's like no pass? Like I'm kind of confused here. But as Allen Iverson said, not a game. We talking about OTAs. That's all I have to say. You go right ahead.
You can. I will say that the way they can organize drills, you can take a quote unquote sack through an internal clock that the coaches create. Like you have X amount of time to get rid of the football before the pass rush gets to you. But I mean, if we're being real about the situation between OTAs and training camp, they're throwing the football the majority of the time. Yeah, they're going to work out the running backs and everything and get them in shape and all that and get them accustomed to the plays that they want to run from a schematic standpoint in the offense. But they're going to throw the football most of the time. And, and as we know how important it is to get a quarterback in sync with his receivers, and you can't do that unless you're throwing the football and they're running routes. I mean, you're getting to absolute basics here. But I mean, how often do we hear this anyway? And a story is trying to be created, and I mean, we should know this. We should know this by now, especially with the previous quarterback that's been here. I mean, it's happened on how many occasions now with Carson, with different levels, and it was all about the leadership questioning and he's making this errant throw and he's missing this receiver, he did that, he did this and that. we're used to that by now, and it just strikes me. It strikes me in a way that I don't know why. I don't know why we have such a hard time in developing a commitment to the quarterback of our team. And while a lot of it's warranted right now because, well, he's not signed here, he's still on his rookie deal. The Eagles have 2 first-round picks going into next year when they acquired an extra one from the Saints, and this is a part of the the interview process, if you will. Hurts is still going through it, but I mean, again, it just goes back to Hurts as a player and Hurts as a person. First of all, he wasn't the second pick in the draft. He was drafted in the second round. That was projected to be a 4th rounder, and at this point, right now, he's only 23 years old. I mean, he's 23 years old.
OTAs, bro. We're talking about practice.
Can we just not blow those kind of things out of proportion?
No, we cannot. Especially if it's Philly. Especially if it's media in Philly. And this is what I got to say about sports media, sports journalists, especially like in Philadelphia. They know that the Eagles have the most, or one of the most, arguably the most emotional fan base. So anytime there's a report like this, something like there's always a reaction. There's always fans. That's why you have all these YouTubers on here that we know that we're all friends with making videos saying, oh, they're talking about Jalen Hurts. You got, people of rival teams talking about it. Oh, well, Jalen Hurts is he sucks. He can't play. That's why he had to like bad practice and stuff. They know that either way, people are going to get a reaction. After a certain amount of time, you have to understand that the media has their own game. The NFL has their own game. Jalen Hurts has his own game that he plays. His game is to play quarterback and try to get better. That's what his game is. The media's game is to try to get the best reaction out of people, to get the most clicks, to get the most people angry, which they did, and they succeeded. That's why there was a lot of pissed off people. I knew that, though, which is why I didn't react to it. So I don't think it's anything that anyone should be concerned about. I think that if we see him playing games and having problems, then that's when we need to have a conversation about that. We're not playing games right now, and we're not playing games anytime soon. We're getting ready to start training camp. We're getting ready to start full pads, start hit days in practice and all that stuff. It's going to be good for the team. But we're not there yet. If we see the struggles into the season, then yeah, we're going to have to talk about it. But we're not there right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is to Goat Mechie. It's the timing of the article. Like, we understand training camp is around the corner. You have to strum up some kind of you have to strum up some kind of conflicting story to get people on the edge of their seat, to build some nervousness, or to look at something this way, and have people worried on how somebody is going to do. That's exactly the way it looks to me. And I also don't think there's any problem in terms of his contract filling halftime either. His contract is not almost up. He has 2 years left, including this year, a part of his rookie deal. I think the only way you would try to indicate any problem is with the way that the Eagles do contracts. Well, they always try to stay ahead of the market. And in the case of Jalen Hurts, his overall play
right now,
his overall play is going to dictate what he gets paid. So I don't really think it has anything to do with the quarterback market, because you place yourself where you're going to be overall and how much you get paid. And as of right now, people are throwing numbers around saying that, Hurts has the potential to make $40 million a year. That's Dak Prescott type of money. So, take of it what you will, but I'm not
type of money right now. I think
that's exactly what I said halftime. It's this year and next year. That's 2 years.
I even think if he has a really good season this year, I'm not sure if they would pay him $40 million because of what happened with Carson Wentz. The whole Carson Wentz situation was brutal. We gave him like that big contract, and even last year we were literally paying him to have his salary, to pay his salary, and he was playing on another team. That was a brutal situation to go into. So I feel like they're going to play it by ear, and they're going to try to be smart about it. But Jalen Hurts is the biggest factor. Jalen Hurts has to have a big season. So I don't know what's going to happen, but if he doesn't have the type of season that he needs to have, they are going to go in another direction. They're going to go get a quarterback because they have 2 first-round picks next year. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm saying if the circumstances play out in a certain type of way. I think that for Jalen Hurts to get paid like the big money, then he's going to have an outstanding season this year.
Right.
Not just a good season, just a great season, but a very, very good season to get that type of money. I don't think that they're going to do that because they've already went down that rabbit hole with Wentz.
Right, and no, it's not that I'm wrong. It's not that I'm wrong halftime. It's the misinterpretation and how I worded it. If you count this year and next year, it's technically 2 years. He has 1 year left after this year.
He's unrestricted.
Yes, it's not
24. So he's got 22 and he's got 23.
Yeah, because I believe first round first round selections are only eligible for a 5th-year option. Obviously, most rookie deals are 4 years unless you have a 5th-year eligibility as an option for a franchise tag. But his contract is almost up, and you can paint however size target on his back you want. But
Angel?
at the same time, I mean, it's not I don't think it's as big of a make or break type of year as people want to paint it out to be. Because I mean, granted, you have to trust and say that if you're in a position to hit the reset button next year with the upcoming quarterback class, you have to be locked in, and you have to be you have to be absolutely set on who you want to go after in that quarterback class. Like, whether it's Stroud and Spencer Rattler. I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't think they're limited to drafting a quarterback. I mean, if you looked at the landscape of the NFL the last 2 years, all these quarterbacks have been changing teams. You have Lamar that's still not signed for the Ravens. You still have Kyler Murray that's still not signed for the Cardinals. I would think that the Eagles would try to go after one of those guys if the contract thing doesn't work out. But Jalen Hurts, everything's for Jalen Hurts, predicated for Jalen Hurts being good. So even if he has a good season, it really depends on how good it is. How good are we talking? Because if he just has a good season and he doesn't show that he can be a franchise quarterback that can carry the team, then are they really going to invest that level of money in? And we got Randall joining us. So what's up, Randall? What's up, Randall?
What's up, bro? Sorry, I was waiting for somebody else to say
you're good, man. So what are your thoughts on what we've been talking about tonight with Jalen Hurts' contract and everything?
I mean, that's why I kind of popped in. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're right, Lindy. There's still 2 years left on his deal, and I don't see no hurry in jumping on the bandwagon and getting him signed up when we still have a lot of question marks that are at hand. So, I mean, at this point in time, I don't think I'm the best person to be asking whether or not I'd want Hurts on the team in 2 years when I'm the one's going to be pushing videos and stuff in the next probably month and a half saying Eagles need to trade for Justin Herbert. Use those two first and package up a deal and go get Justin Herbert if Hurts doesn't work out.
Right.
But as far as talking 35 mil plus for a quarterback right now, especially for Jalen Hurts, no.
No, right now. I also agree. I don't think they're gonna. He has a good season this year. I don't think they're gonna still pay him. They might still keep him on the team. They might not go after Lamar, for example, like I was mentioning earlier. But they will not pay him until the end. I think that if he has a good season this year and has an even better season in 23, then I think they'll have to weigh what their options are.
Absolutely. Like you said, if he has a really good 23 and that 23 culminates maybe a potential MVP type season that maybe puts us on the cusp of a Super Bowl berth, then that's when we start talking, okay, maybe this is definitely our guy kind of thing, right? So I'm not saying they're not going to tell him from this point on till that point that he's not our guy, but I mean, I don't want to be paying him now. And then like you just mentioned, and you and Lindy just mentioned, that we'll be in the Carson debacle all over again. So no thanks.
I feel you.
Right. I mean, the Eagles going into this year, of course they're going to tread lightly because of, what they decided to do with their previous franchise quarterback, quote unquote, and unfortunately they had to get up out from under that contract. So being that, they're kind of in a conflicting position of, they like to stay ahead of the market, and before another quarterback resets that market, and like whoever it's going to eventually be. So they have that to work with, and then they have the unknown on how Jalen Hurts is going to perform overall. So you have to put it in an appropriate type of vacuum and say, well, okay, you can't just base it off of from a statistical standpoint. Like, he has to throw for X amount of yards, he has to throw for X amount of touchdowns, he needs to stay in the pocket more, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. You need to look at it in terms of an efficiency standpoint. Like, we wanted to talk about other teams in the division and how and how they win these games. Do they win because of the quarterback, or do they win in spite of them? Like, we're set up in a good position to the point of knowing how good intangibly Jalen Hurts is from a leader perspective. Like, he's the kind of quarterback from a mindset standpoint that you want to lead your franchise. But now everything else from a football nuance in the developmental position, now that has to come along with where he is in a mental development type of stage. So if you take the whole package and you look at it and say, okay, well, he wasn't as efficient from a completion percentage standpoint that we were looking for, but we still seen the improvement to know that he's going to continue to progress upward instead of plateau or regress. Then they're going to be more comfortable in stepping up the ladder. And then, okay, well, maybe we can start to put a deal on the table for this guy and watch him throughout his fourth year and say, okay, well, maybe now is the time to put a deal on the table. But it's all going to come down to what he does this year with everybody, with all the upgrades that the team has been given from offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I feel you. And as far as like with the contracts, I see what DeGoat Mechie said. He says $30 to $40 million is cheap team friendly deal. But I gotta say, like, I blame the Cleveland Browns for this, because what the Cleveland Browns did when they traded for Deshaun Watson, they gave him like an absurd amount of guaranteed money. So I feel like that's going to play a role, not only for us potentially in the future, but I feel like it's already playing a role. I think there's a reason that Lamar Jackson has not been signed. I don't think it's because the Ravens don't believe in Lamar Jackson. I think that's ridiculous. I think they definitely believe in Lamar. But they haven't paid him because this whole thing with guaranteed money is going to have an effect on the market. All the quarterbacks are going to want to have like $200 million guaranteed now. And not every quarterback is worth $200 million guaranteed. I don't think Deshaun Watson is worth that. Deshaun Watson hasn't played in a year. When he last played, was he a top 5 quarterback? Sure. But I don't think you should just go around giving guys, that much guaranteed money. Someone like,
unless you're the Cleveland Browns,
like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes or guys that have done it consistently year in, year out, every single year, then yeah. But I don't know, man. Like the quarterback market paying guys it's insane to see how far we've come. I remember when a guy gets $100 million deal, that was a big deal. Like 10 years ago, 10, 12, 15 years ago, you get $100 million, that was something. Now, if you see a guy to $100 million, that's like some change. It's absolutely crazy to see that.
Yeah, and the only reason why the Browns didn't they like just kind of like throw a bank at Watson was because he walked away and was like, "No, I'm not about this." And then they're like, "Okay, well, I guess the only thing they do is just give him what he wants, which is a bunch of money." So
Deshaun Watson was not signing for anything unless he was going to get the most guaranteed money. That's why he didn't go to Atlanta Falcons or the Saints or the other teams that were interested. He wanted to get his guaranteed money before, and all the court cases and things have been settled for him. But we don't know about the suspension. We don't know if he's going to play still. There might still be a suspension, and he wanted to get the guaranteed money. But that's a whole separate issue. But what I'm saying is, whether it's a separate issue or not, it still is going to play a role with negotiations going forward.
Exactly. like you said, he set the market inadvertently, but he did.
I don't think we'll give Jalen Hurts close to $200 million guaranteed.
No.
It may not even. Well, I don't want to say it may not even. I think Carson's annual when he got that extension, I think that was at $34 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. So if he's going to get that type of deal, especially stemming off of the MVP-esque type of run that he had, where he wasn't exactly efficient, but he was the talk of the league next to Tom Brady. So if you see $34 million there, I mean, what is the ceiling? What is the ceiling in the case of Hurts? You could very well argue that he could be in the ballpark on what Carson's deal was, but of course he needs to. Of course he needs to play first. I mean, the Eagles aren't going to go. The Eagles aren't going to go into this like they would if they want to extend Slay or if they want to extend Javon Hargrave, because, well, they already have a large enough resume of consistency at their positions to garner that type of deal, and, well, they are staples at their positions anyway, and I don't think the Eagles can afford to lose Slay at this point right now, but you get where I'm going with that.
As far as with Jalen, I don't see Jalen as a type that, obviously he's going to look out for himself and he's going to try to get paid, but I don't see him as a type that's going to say, you guys better pay me or I'm not going to come to the team. I'm not going to come to practice. I'm going to hold out in the season. I don't see him doing anything like that.
Yeah. Agreed.
No, I think it's the mentality that he shares, with guys like with guys like Landon Dickerson and Devontae Smith, those full-on disciplined Bama players that they just want to win. They want to get to the big dance. They want to get to the Super Bowl. They want to get to the place where they've been used to from a collegiate level. Like they're used to being winners at the highest level. In the whether it's college or the NFL. I think they want to I think they want to focus on that first, and then the money will soon follow, respectively, on how well they play. And I think that was a part of. I don't necessarily think that was a part of AJ Brown's departure. I think that was more because the Titans lowballed him because they just don't like to pay their receivers. But it's besides the point that he's in just as good of a situation that this is a team on the rise, and they're putting. I think they're prioritizing the right thing first over wanting to get that bag, and that's what separates. Sometimes that's what separates good teams from bad teams. If you have a collection of players that are in good faith, that want to put the game of football first and, want to give it their all for the city that they play for, much like we watched Hassan Reddick come home and how excited we are for him to be playing on the defense. Because,
oh man. We got a problem. Randall says that he got Nelson Aguilar internet, had some dropped reception, and also dropped his phone. So he got the double whammy with the Nelson Aguilar. So prayers for him. Moment of silence for him. But anyway, as far as we're going to continue the talk with Jalen Hurts. We have 5 minutes left. So everyone's wondering if he's going to get paid, if he's going to be the guy, if he's going to stay, if he's going to go. But what I want to ask is, does Jalen Hurts' performance in the playoffs, let's say that he has a pretty good season, but in the playoffs he plays better than he did in the regular season, and depending on how far they go, let's say they make it to the NFC Championship by some chance. Would that change your mind on paying Jalen Hurts for this year if he performs very well in the playoffs?
NFC Championship game? I think it.
Champ game.
I think it solely depends on what the overall ceiling of this team is as a whole. Like I said, it's kind of the same mentality that we were talking about for Washington and the Giants. Like, is Hurts going to be the reason that this team wins the football games, or do the Eagles have to win in spite of their quarterback? And one of the things that I can go to from last year and watching the offense have to do just a minor schematic change in running the football over passing. I mean, I think weeks 1 through 7 they were very pass heavy. So being that you notice that something is not working, and you try to mask a little bit of the deficiencies, they changed to the run, and they became top 5, top 3 in every rushing category in the
They're
NFL.
Number 1 in the league in rushing.
Right, and when you look at it from that perspective, in terms of pass attempts, the Eagles were dead last. We were dead last in pass attempts among the rest of the NFL. So in terms of that, I'm hoping for a better balance between the pass and the run. I'm hoping for a more accurate, a more decisive, a more collected, a more in rhythm, a more.
Hurts is going to know the offense.
A more in,
season, I think.
Yeah, a more intelligent Jalen Hurts, and if we go back to that Tampa Bay game in the playoffs, the wild card, that same game that the Eagles did not belong in. If we go back to that game, I think there were times where it was completely blown out of proportion on how bad Jalen Hurts was. And yes, I'm not going to create excuses for him, but I think it was still said that he was playing on a bad ankle, that it wasn't 100%. Again, there's no excuse there. You're on the field, you have to perform. But kudos to him for playing through the pain and being that leader type of guy, and still being on the football field for your guys. But to go into that game and expect a first year starter but second year
Needs
player
to be a balance between the pass and the run.
But my problem, the more I think about it, is for us to expect Jalen Hurts to be able to diagnose on an adequate level a Todd Bowles built defense. I mean, what are we talking about here? One of the best defensive coordinators in all of football, and we're expecting him to make play after play on a more consistent basis.
It was a brutal performance by Jalen, but
it was, and he
that's going to make him better.
Yes, and he made his collection of mistakes that really the defense didn't have an effect on, because it was a poor decision. It was a poor decision by him, or his timing was off, or whatever. But to approach that game in a way of, we're going to expect X, Y, and Z, and and say that he should be on Tom Brady's level to make it competitive. That's completely ridiculous. But I think the best part of that loss, because you can still take good things out of a loss. The best part to me is how he handled it. Yeah, I think the best part is how he handled the loss. He didn't sit and pout and go to blame deflections and try and create any kind of excuse he possibly can. Well, no, he's flat out like, I had to play better
with Kyler Murray when he had a terrible game against the Rams, just like Jalen had a terrible game against the Bucs. But Kyler was he was blaming everyone else, so that's what I had issue with him. But Jalen, he ain't doing that, which I respect a lot.
Yep. You imagine Carson playing in that game?
I don't want to imagine that, but
exactly.
We're at the end of the show, and I really don't want to imagine that. But we want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching tonight, the Linc'd podcast, where we talked about the Eagles every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys can catch us here as part of the Sideline Sports Network. Lindy, would you like to let anyone know about anything upcoming for you that you're doing right now before we get off of here?
Well, appropriately enough, I do. I do got some big things. Going on. In T-minus 28 minutes, I will be hosting episode 17 of Touchdown Talk. Lord Brunson is coming over. LB, best reporting on the Eagles himself, will be over on the channel. On Saturday, we got Philly 500 paying a visit. So I say we as like third person. I gotta stop doing that. But I'm kind of reaching mountaintops. I'm trying to reach mountaintops here, and in the content creator world. And but it all. I think it just comes down to the person's willingness to want to do the collaboration. So I think that's more important, and I'm very appreciative because of that, because I'm far from the level of these guys to begin with in the first place. But nonetheless, past those two episodes of Touchdown Talk, episode 20 will be the start of chapter 2, in which I am going to open it a little further past Eagles content creators and go across the NFL and use some other content creators intel and maybe look for Titans content creators, talk to them about AJ Brown, or ask San Francisco ones about Jaquiski Tart, so on and so forth. Hassan Reddick from Panthers content creators. The possibilities at that point are endless, and that's how I want to open the next chapter of Touchdown Talk, because it's been a great ride so far, and being able to have a different Eagles content creator 18 episodes in. So pretty excited about it.
Touchdown Talk. Make sure you guys go check out Touchdown Talk. You guys leave this stream, get ready for the next one over on Lindy's channel. And I'm glad that I was personally able to be a part of the Touchdown Talk when it was first starting up. I was one of the first guests. Yep. But anyway.
That was pretty early, yeah.
Yeah. We will be seeing you guys next Friday night, as I said, 8 p.m. Eastern, as a part of the Sideline Sports Network, the Linc'd podcast, your place for Eagles content and Eagles coverage. We will see you guys next Friday.